Hello and welcome back. In the previous video, we learned that ISO 14971 applies to all types of medical devices such as bandages or even surgical robots. In today's video, however, we'll discuss how this standard applies to phases of medical devices, life cycle. That is from the initial phase to its disposal phase, right? Because risk management should be used in all phases of medical devices to ensure that all the harms or risk associated with the medical devices as less as possible. So what is a medical device life cycle, you may ask? A medical device life cycle is a series of all phases in the life of a medical device from initial idea to its final commissioning or disposal. This includes the first one being design and development, right? So this is where the medical device is designed and developed. Second one being production. We might all be familiar with the production. This is where the medical device is manufactured, like assembly line, right? And the third one being distribution. This is where medical devices are being shipped and stored to customer or to hospitals. And the fourth one being installation. If your devices are kind of heavy, like a heart monitoring devices, this is where your medical devices is installed and set up for use. And the fifth one is use. So this is where medical device is used by healthcare professional and patients. The sixth one being maintenance and repair. This is where medical device is serviced and maintained to ensure that it continues to function properly. The last one is commissioning and disposal. This is where medical device is taken out of a service and disposed safely. So all these things from initial design to decommissioning, we need to make sure that proper risk management is in place so that our patient does not get harmed by our product, right? So how does the ISO 14971 applies to each of these phases? So ISO 14971 requires manufacturers to apply risk management principle to all these phases of medical device, like I just talked about. This means that manufacturers need to identify, analyze, evaluate, and control risk at each stages of this process. They need to find what possible harms could occur to the patient in each phases and try to reduce it before it even gets to the patient, right? For example, here are some of the specific examples of how ISO 14971 can be applied to each of these medical devices life cycle. So let's look at the first one, which is design and development. That's always, that's the first phase of medical device, that is designing and developing the medical device. So during this phase, manufacturers can use risk analysis technique to identify potential hazards and risk associated with their medical device, and then they can use this information to design the device to be as safe as possible, right? For example, a manufacturer of a surgical robot might use risk analysis to identify the risk of unintended movements of the robotic arms, right? Because it could, if it moves in different direction that unintended, then it can affect the patient. And then design this robot with safety features to prevent these movements from occurring. So that's the benefit, basically brainstorming. And in the production phase, during this phase, manufacturers or companies need to ensure that their manufacturing process is controlled to minimize risk, right? This could involve implementing quality control procedures to ensure that the devices are manufactured in the correct specification using specification documents, or using validated sterilization process to ensure that devices are free from contamination. Here you can see a lot of production related things like QC and things to make your product in good quality, right? And distribution. So during this phase, manufacturers need to ensure that their devices are packaged and shipped in a way that minimizes the risk of damage and contamination. This is very important because you can make your product in design a product in any good way and then produce it in a good way, but if you don't distribute it well, then you run a risk of it getting damaged, right? So let's move on to installation. If the medical device requires installation, the manufacturers need to ensure to provide clear instruction and training to ensure that the device is installed correctly and safely, because if it's not installed safely, that could cause risk to the patient. The fifth one is the use. During this phase, companies need to provide users with clear instruction for use and warnings about potential risk. This helps to ensure that device is used safely and effectively. For example, you can provide information for use, little guides to tell them how to use your device safely so that you reduce the risk of unintended use. And we have maintenance and repair. Manufacturers or the companies need to provide instruction and training for the safe and effective maintenance of the devices. What this does is this helps to ensure the devices continues to function properly and the risks are minimized. Because if somebody is repairing it and if they don't repair as a procedure, then it can have harm to the patient, right? The last one is decommissioning and disposal. You gotta make sure this is safe, because any risk associated with these devices can occur to the people if it's not disposed safely. So this life cycle all needs to have risk management in place, and it is very important that as a company you include risk management file for all these life cycle. To conclude, ISO 14971 is a comprehensive risk management standard that applies to all phases of medical device life cycle, right? We just talked about. By following this process outlined in the standard, companies can ensure the safety and effectiveness of their devices from initial design to the final disposal. That's all I have for this video today. In the next video, we'll discuss the benefits of if implementing ISO 14971 in more detail. That being said, I hope this was informative. Knowing all these different life cycle phases is very important for you, because a lot of times I used to get a question of, hey, where do we implement risk management? Do we only implement in design, or do we implement in our production facilities, or do we extend it to distribution as well? So as we just learned today, risk management have to be basically thought about, and you need to do risk management file and analysis on all different life cycle, like distribution, storage, right, during the use. So it's really important you know the life cycle of it, and I'm really happy that I was able to cover this topic in great detail. But that being said, we'll discuss the benefits of using ISO 14971 in our next video. Thank you so much.